President-elect Joe Biden and President Trump both heading to Georgia today to lead the last-minute push for the Peach State. The balance of power rests, of course, on the outcome here when we're looking at the Senate. So this all comes on the heels of a leaked Washington Post audio. Well, rather, the Washington Post posted the audio of a phone call between President Trump and Georgia's Secretary of State concerning the Georgia vote count. Here to break it all down, Ryan Girdusky, author of They're Not Listening. Ryan, tell me good things about Georgia, or not. Just tell me the truth.
Well, so far in this election, a little over 3 million Georgians have already voted. Very heavily within the of the 6 Democrat congressional districts, 5 of them have some of the strongest voting numbers. One is the worst early voting numbers, which is in the Black Belt in southwest Georgia, rather. Republican congressional have been okay, not great. Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, the new congressman from northwest Georgia, is having some of the worst numbers, and she's in the most Republican area, so that's not good. But Republicans do vote on Election Day, not early in this election cycle, and so it's nothing to be completely panicked about. The good thing right now is that of the percentage of people who have voted in this election versus in the 2020 general election, the biggest drop-off comes from voters under the age of 30. It's a significant 15% drop-off. So there is a chance that the number of young voters who help flip the state from red to blue and give Joe Biden very, very high numbers will not be voting in this cycle.
Ryan, who's in a stronger position from what we can see right now, Loeffler or Perdue?
Perdue, absolutely. Perdue has got a name brand. He's been in Georgia politics for some time. He came out with strong numbers out of the first cycle. Loeffler was appointed by the position. She has a number of controversies in her past. She's had a number of very poor television interviews, and she's had some really not wonderful campaign commercials. On top of that, she's been pummeled quite a bit, and her responses have been lackluster at best. And she kind of is trying to do this thing where we really don't know what she believes on a lot of issues. She was just asked the other day, would she vote to overturn the NDAA? She was not in the Senate to vote on it. And she just said, I'm not answering that question. So it's problematic for people, for sure. But so I think Perdue has the better chance, despite all of his problems and the attack ads against him. The incumbency does help him substantially.
I know that you were down there and looking at what the GOP was up to. How has the state level effort and just let's just say, nationwide as well from the RNC side of things, how has their effort been to help these two candidates?
Well, the Republican candidates have raised a combined $125 million, which is nothing compared to the Democrat candidates who have raised about $240 million. The candidates have made up for that effort in large part because the RNC and other outside groups, Karl Rove's group especially, have put $180 million in to the race to help those two boost their numbers. I think that so that's a benefit, and they've knocked, I believe, as I've talked to someone yesterday, they knocked 10 million doors. They have precinct captains inside every Democratic precinct as well to watch for the polls. So they're doing everything I think that they can do within the time frame that they've been given. The biggest problem right now is all the issues that they've conceded in. As I've told you many times on this show, which is that from ballot drop boxes to all the other issues that they've had, and I think that the messaging from the super PACs is not the best. There was a commercial I was told that was aired that was warning about going back to the Obama economy, and they've been very light on the culture war issues, which I think they should have been much, much heavier on. You have them trying to change the name of the Braves. You have Democrats promising to end Christopher Columbus Day, and you have Joe Biden talking about changing the law not to make it a crime to knowingly transmit HIV to somebody else. That's something that we should talk about, and not going back to the Obama economy, which was now 5 years ago, and most people don't really recall, especially considering we're in a recession right now and COVID and all the rest of the issues that we're facing at this moment.
Ryan, have any of the ads against Warnock or Ossoff really hit home, you think, move the needle in favor of their Republican opposition?
I think the Warnock ads recently have kind of have been making an impact, especially when it comes to assaulting his wife. the child molestation issue. But I mean, they should have made a much bigger point, I think, when he sat there and said that we need to apologize for the crime of white supremacy and white privilege. And I think that he should have gone much heavier on when he said that you can't be a Christian and serve in the American military. I think that they were afraid to really get in the mud in some ways. But look, if this all works, I think they're too dependent on the idea of like this is stopping us from socialism, which is their main point. I think that's a very, very dumb campaign ploy. It didn't work against Joe Biden. It didn't work in many of the Senate races. And I don't think that, or many of the House races too, it didn't work in. And I don't think that it is something that really scares people the way that the consultant class really thinks it does.
Ryan, we had a leaked phone call between the Georgia Secretary of State Raffensperger and Donald Trump. We want to just play a little bit of this and get some of your reaction.
You have a big election coming up, and because of what you've done to the president, you know, the people of Georgia know that this was a scam. And because of what you've done to the president, a lot of people aren't going out to vote. And a lot of Republicans are going to vote negative because they hate what you did to the president. Okay? They hate it.
What is the truth of let's put aside the election fraud issue for a second, but on people staying home on the right because they're so frustrated with either Raffensperger or just the outcome of the presidential election thus far, is that a real concern? Are we seeing that?
Yeah. It's a huge concern. Yeah, I talked to somebody who was a door knocking captain, and he told me that they get it a lot. They get a lot from people saying, you know, that they're very, very, very frustrated. And look, the number of people who think that Georgia was stolen is very high. That doesn't mean that they're not going to go out and vote. Republicans do still feel that obligation to go out and vote. But there are a number who are sitting there and saying, why should I bother? You know, screw Mitch McConnell, to deny him the Senate majority. There are those voices. How loud are they versus how loud on the internet? We don't really know. Luckily, a lot of the people who go out and vote all the time, constantly, feel the obligation that this is America, this is a democracy someone's fought for, and I have the right to go vote. And I should, exercise that right. What I've just heard recently is that leaked phone call came from Jordan Fuchs, allegedly, and I've mentioned her on your show. She is the deputy Secretary of State that I've been talking about for 2.5 months right now. She's the same one who sat there and wanted to hire Cardi B to do poll watching outreach to get poll watchers. And that that she has been the main person running the Secretary of State's office, even more so than Brad Raffensperger. So it's not surprising, but I want to just point that out because I've mentioned it to you on the show in the past.
Is there any hope in your mind? I mean, we've got this Georgia election tomorrow, which obviously is critical, but is there any hope about getting answers to any unanswered questions about the presidential election in Georgia?
Not until this current administration goes out. I think that Brad Raffensperger and Kemp and the good old boy system that many southern states have, unfortunately, many southern states elect the next guy who's been waiting, and it is a very much a pat on the back system, and unfortunately, it's very problematic in states that are no longer reliably red. Like Georgia anymore. The good news for Republicans right now going to the Senate election is that Democrats have kind of eaten away at most of their reliable voters, and now they're going to go trying to push unreliable voters to go out. Republicans have a lot more reliable voters left to vote, and all that matters. I mean, Trump's going to the rally tonight. All that matters is they actually show up now and carry out the day, and it's extremely, extremely important.
Ryan Girdusky, good to see you, my friend. Thanks so much.